Hi guys and welcome. This is Jen Gaeta Siciliano, artist, memoir writer, bipolar psychiatric survivor, and your host of Not As Crazy As You Think podcast, the place that offers an alternative perspective on mental illness, highlighting creativity, non-conventional healing, and breaking on through to the other side. If you are ready for a new narrative on the mental realm that celebrates crazy and cool without penalty, then Not As Crazy As You Think is for you. Hello, this is Jen Gaeta Siciliano, your host of Not As Crazy As You Think podcast. Today we have Mr. D back, and I'm so happy that he could join us because it's time. It's time to reconnect with the spiritual and get going with our paths because spring is here, right? And then during times like this, the change of seasons, there's a lot to call forward and we're going to learn how to do that today. So, Mr. D, thank you so much for coming on the show again.
It's a pleasure, Jennifer. I love it. I love it.
Now, for those of you who haven't heard Mr. D before, I have two previous podcasts. Check them out. One in each season. Season 1 was the first episode, and season 2, I think he was like number 3 or something like that. But check it out. And he and I go way back. He was my teacher from 5th through 8th grade. And we have been friends since. And he's retired, but you're doing classes in your spirituality group. So tell us a little bit about that, because I know that you just opened it up to your meetup group. What's that about?
Well, I used to teach a class in Nanuet Adult Ed called Creating a More Joyful Life. And it was lovely. I did it for like 14 years. It was beautiful. People really grabbed on to a lot of the information and a lot of the ideas and ran with it, you know. Others, you plant the seed, and down the road, it was very interesting. Down the road, I would get texts and calls from people that, you know, would say stuff like, I finally got it, you know, which is so exhilarating. It's so exhilarating to hear. And during COVID, my yoga teacher said, you should do Zoom. So I had somebody help me and set it up, and we started a Zoom class, and we've been doing it for about 1.5 years, and it's lovely. And my stepdaughter just suggested that I get a meetup group and combine the meetup with the Zoom class, so I'm doing that.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Check it out, because Mr. D gives all his little tidbits of information, of little insights, and it just gives you that extra little juice and fuel that you need spiritually throughout the week. It's a lot. It's amazing. And one of the things that you like to cover is how to manifest. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today. In fact, before we get into that, I do want to bring something up. Because you were my social studies teacher during the Cold War, I wanted to just ask you a few questions about, you know, what you think of what's going on in the Ukraine, because one of the things that I'm feeling is that somehow the Ukrainians, because of their ability to envision their future homeland, keeping their future homeland, they are in a better position, even though they're fighting this monstrous entity, and they're giving the world this hope, and everyone's cheering them on, just hoping that, like, wow, you know, can a small fish survive the big fish attack? You know, what do you take on all that? Like, what's your view? Because you know so much about, you know, the background of the Cold War and everything that we went through.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a sad thing to say, but it just happens to be that some of these people who have some sort of ego deficiency, and they get into a place of power, and power corrupts, and ultimate power corrupts ultimately, which is what they say. Not always, but frequently. And, you know, a lot of these guys, and Hitler and Stalin, they had serious deficiencies as far as self-concept and compassion. And, you know, so my big take on it is that I wish, you know, Putin and Stalin and Hitler and all these people, I wish they were raised and brought up in an environment that perhaps is more loving and more encouraging and more, you know, building up of their own self-esteem, so they wouldn't have to do this to feel powerful. They wouldn't have to do this to, satisfy whatever ego stuff is going on. Because if we could teach children how to love themselves and how to love their fellow man and be compassionate and to know that this universe is supporting, we wouldn't have this kind of stuff.
Right.
I know it's a pipe dream and, whatever. And I know it's happening slowly, that people are realizing, we teach algebra and geometry and God only knows what else. And, we really don't emphasize the kids' self-esteem and the kids' self-confidence and compassion, and I think if we shifted parenting and teaching.
Right.
And I don't want to say shape, but have a greater influence in those areas with young kids, we wouldn't have all this kind of stuff. We'd have a more compassionate, loving world. And I think we're stuck at this moment with, some people who just don't have that.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, he didn't learn compassion, and he learned that he's got to be so manly and he's got to be whatever he's got to be. I have no idea.
So if somebody doesn't have that really fortune of somebody guiding them and, steering them on the right path and helping them connect to themselves, how do people who feel that they, lack that in their lives, how do they regain it later on?
Well, the tools that we like to use is visualization. We like to visualize. Wayne Dyer says, surround yourself with the circumstances that you want. So let's say that you want a better job. Surround yourself with those circumstances. Visualize. And we like to bring other parts of the brain in. So we'll do visioning boards.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get magazines. We'll cut out whatever you want and put on the board and feel it. Look at that board and say, because what you think about, you bring about.
Mm-hmm.
If you dream it, you can achieve it. So if we feel this as part of our environment, then the universe will respond even faster.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll manifest it. Like years ago, my yoga teacher, lovely girl, she was telling me that she wanted this car. And she just had this desire for this little, I don't know what kind of car it was, I forgot, many years ago. And she didn't have the money for the car. So a month later, whatever, a few weeks later, her mother calls her up. Her mother lives in Florida, and she lives up here in the Northeast. And mother called her up and said, honey, they had this big raffle in our retirement community. And I won this car. And we already have a car. We don't want this car. And for just a little bit of money, pay for whatever, the shipping or whatever you want to do, you could have the car. And my yoga teacher said, well, what kind of car is it? It was the exact car.
What?
That she had on her visioning board.
Oh my gosh.
Now, you might laugh and say, oh, this is impossible. These things happen all the time.
Yeah.
And Louise Hay said that she visualized an apartment that she wanted. And she found it in a magazine or whatever, or she drew it or somebody painted it, whatever. And she put it on the visioning board and she felt herself in that apartment. She felt herself walking around in her pajamas and her slippers and having coffee in the morning. She put herself there, but it was slow coming.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a year later or, 10 months later, she sees the apartment, on the market, and she goes, and it's the exact same apartment she wanted, and she got the apartment. But she said to the real estate agent, I visualized this apartment, 8 months ago or 9 months ago, and I'm surprised that it took, quite a while for it to arrive. And the real estate agent said, oh, this apartment was under construction for the last 9 months.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that amazing?
The apartment didn't reach the level of expectation that she wanted because it was being repaired, it was being fixed.
Right.
And then when it was the perfect match, she was there and open and,
Wow.
Amazing, amazing stuff. Now, I know you're manifesting, and I think it's wonderful. It's very exciting, Jennifer. It's very exciting.
It's exciting. I definitely have removed some blocks where it feels as though it's starting to flow, which is great. And I had to manifest too because I ended up getting hurt. So the job that I had, which required me to do heavy labor, I couldn't do. But I knew it was some kind of sign that was like, okay, it's time. You're envisioning all these things, but they can't come in from where you are logistically right now in this job.
Right.
So I am very lucky. I'm starting a new job and I'm going to be teaching art to kids in the city, in New York City. So it's going to be a ball, and I'm going to be in a lot of different districts. So it's just to feel that I can bring my, energy and just dedication to the arts into where the kids are. I feel like it's going to just give me so much back. So yeah, the manifestation, I feel like I just tapped into recently, but I've been dry for a really long time. And I feel like, part of what I needed to do was raise my vibration. And that just required me to let go and stop thinking that, it has to be a certain way and get addicted to all the hows and ways it could happen and should happen, and just kind of allow something else to take over.
Yeah.
So is that one of the things that we need to do? Just let go?
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, there's a great expression that whoever listens, I hope they remember it. And the expression is, you can't get there from here.
Right.
You can't get to a beautiful place, a place of manifestation, if your here is negative, if your here is full of lack and limitation. So you can't get to abundance if you feel lack and limitation. Right. You can't get to health if you feel sick. Mm-hmm. You can't get to a beautiful relationship if you feel like you're not deserving. So the expression is, you can't get there from here. So a lot of times people are in an area of stagnation or whatever you want to call it. And it has nothing to do with the universe. It has to do with your state of being, your energy, your vibration. Right. Because the universe responds to our energy. What you think about, you bring about. So, and I'm not saying to beat yourself up, because nobody is on 100% positive ever. Or you could be. They call it the honeymoon effect. When you're on your honeymoon, and you're living in the present moment. That's another tool we use. We try to stay in the present moment. When you're on your honeymoon, or when you first meet the love of your life, the honeymoon effect, everything flows. Aches and pains sort of dissipate. Worries dissipate. You wake up. You look at your partner's face and hug them and whatever. Hug her and kiss them and whatever. And you're in a beautiful present moment place. And that is another tool that we use to manifest, because we want to live in the present moment. In fact, Jennifer, if I could tell you, the end all and the be all is not the manifestation.
Right.
Esther Hicks says, we want to manifest, and we always do, but there's always something. Man's reach must exceed his grasp. There's got to be stuff out there that we can touch, but we haven't been able to grasp it yet. And this way we keep striving and we keep moving forward, which is beautiful. But Esther Hicks says, I just had it 1 second. Esther Hicks says, we want to manifest because we think that when we manifest this state of being or thing or person, whatever, that we're going to be happy. But the idea is to be happy on the path to the manifestation. So you might say, I want to manifest a wonderful relationship. Good for you. Okay, but my last date wasn't that good. Okay, did you learn from it? Did you meet a nice guy? Maybe you made friends with this person. Maybe, whatever, there's another connection. Maybe he has a job and you could, you know what I mean? And maybe you learn from yourself, from this experience.
Right.
and you move on. And then you say, thank you. That was a good experience. I'm glad I got that because I learned a little bit more about myself, what I don't want. Because when you're clear about what you don't want, it makes what you do want very clear.
Right.
That's another thing we always remember, Jennifer. We want to be clear. What do you want? And I know people who, I want a relationship. And then they say, well, this, that, this, that, this. And then what happens? They get wishy-washy people coming into
Right.
I'm not labeling people wishy-washy, but the whole situation is wishy-washy because they're not clear.
Part of the thing too is to be send out your requests to the universe, right? But openly also, you don't want to get too specific, but you do also want to get specific. So how do you kind of balance that?
Right. We always say, be general in whatever you want to manifest, because it gives the universe a little play. It gives the universe a little bit of flexibility. So you want to, it doesn't matter what we talk about, but if you want a beautiful relationship, don't put a picture of you with Brad Pitt, on your visioning board, because he's taken and he lives far away and his lifestyle might not match yours, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they'll say, be general. So take a picture of a couple walking down the beach, maybe from the back. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or have a picture of you holding hands and your hand is in somebody else's hand. But don't be so specific, because when you're really specific, then you're limiting the universe's, ability to respond even in a better way than you think. Because a lot of times what you want is so much less than what the universe wants to give you. Nobody could outgive God. If you want to use the word God, nobody could outgive God.
That's awesome.
You want whatever it may be, a new job. There's a job out there that'll knock you for a loop. You want a beautiful relationship. There's a relationship out there that'll knock you for a loop. A new career move, a new apartment, whatever you want, because it's out there.
Yeah.
And there used to be a cartoon, Pogo, it used to be called. I'm dating myself. But in the cartoon, this little cartoon character says, I have found the enemy, and it is us. And what he's saying is, get out of your own way. Get out of the way.
Right.
Let the universe orchestrate. Because some of us have to have our finger on that control button all the time. Let the universe orchestrate this new relationship. Let the universe orchestrate this new job. Let the universe orchestrate whatever it may be, better health, and so forth and so on. You got to take the steps also. It's not a one street. Oh God, I'm not healthy. I have this. Okay, the universe will heal you without a doubt, but you got to take care of your nutrition and your sleep and your exercise and you got to feed your body and feed your mind and feed your spirit. Read some good books, listen to some good podcasts, shift your energy. Because when your energy is at a high level, you will attract stuff to you.
Right.
At that level. And when your energy is yucky, you're going to attract sort of kind of yucky stuff, whether it's an illness or a stinky job or, not a nice apartment or, whatever it may be.
So, what's hard though, and, I always think of this because I guess, coming from my background, but also knowing that this is a reality that, a lot of people just get completely disabled by their own depression, or their lack of ability to imagine a better future because right now it's just so bad. But I do personally know that as bad as it can be, because I've had very bad situations, it can change. And I think that's the real thing that can be seen in real time, and it can be seen through evidence that change is always occurring. So I guess if we, trust that, right?
Yes.
It's just a matter of time. I mean, but it's hard for people to break those patterns because a lot of the times, the repetition of thinking, it just keeps you there, But you mentioned some strategies. Always strategies, I think, is so important. Like just basic self-care helps you stay at least, your vibration a little higher than if you just let it go, and that could be the beginning steps.
And another beautiful, well, there's so many tools, but gratitude, find something somewhere that you're thankful for, because that lifts your energy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And once your energy is lifted, try to keep it there. Try to keep it there. And we like to journal. We like to write. And I have like 3 or 4 notebooks here, and I love to jot things in. And one area is gratitude.
Right.
And if I feel a little blue and, whatever my biorhythms or whatever, or, I get bummed out about something, I look to stuff that I'm grateful for, whether it's written or whether it's on my cell phone, on my little or whatever. And it lifts you. And then we affirm ourselves constantly. Louise Hay is a big, big believer in affirming. I would recommend the book. You Could Heal Your Life. It's wonderful. She affirms because what happens is, Jennifer, our subconscious mind, they say, is 70% negative and fearful, because we've been taught as little kids, watch out, be careful, look both ways, watch out for strangers, whatever, cover your nose, cover your face, whatever. And with COVID, it's even worse. So what has happened is we have these fears percolating within us, and a lot of them are subconscious. So what happens is, if we don't affirm and if we don't make these things conscious, we will manifest from the subconscious. This, so you meet somebody who's very afraid and very fearful all the time. What's going to happen? Scary stuff is going to happen to them. People are going to get sick around them. They're going to get sick. Their company's going to downsize. The landlord's going to raise the rent, or the place is going to go co-op and you can't, I don't know. Stuff is going to happen. It's going to cause more fear, because that's where you're coming from. You're coming from a fearful place. And a lot of that fear is subconscious. So we want to be conscious manifestors. We want to be conscious creators. So what do? We affirm. I can do this. I am good. I am beautiful. The key, probably the most important affirmation ever, is that you love yourself. It's so important for everything. So if you love yourself, you can look in the mirror and say, I love me. If you can go to a friend or your child or your sibling or your lover and say, I love me. I'm so happy with me. Wow. And hopefully
that's huge.
It's huge, honey. If you want to manifest, you want to come from a place of, I don't want to say power, but a place of power. And what is the power that we have? We love. Love is the most powerful thing you could possibly use, but you got to start with yourself.
Right.
So I love me. Now, what does that happen? What happens? I will manifest. I don't even talk about manifesting. It happens automatically. I will manifest beautiful, loving people. And I will manifest beautiful relationships. And I will manifest health. And I will manifest whatever, whatever you want to manifest, abundance. Because it comes from where you come from.
Yeah.
How you perceive yourself and how you perceive this universe. I think it was Will Rogers or Mark Twain said, the most important decision you ever make is this a friendly or an unfriendly universe? You believe that this universe is friendly and is responding to your energy. Now you can take off like a rocket, because there's nothing stopping you. If you love yourself and you know this universe responds, there's nothing can stop you. It's amazing.
Well, you said something really interesting, which I think is the thing that we do need to remember. Manifestation happens whether or not you're involved with it or not. So it's really about like the conscious co-creating. like that's where you can actually have an influence, by, I guess, raising your vibration and trying to keep your thoughts clear, and so that you could bring something in. I mean, and that, I guess, when you realize that, and when you experience it, for me personally, this new experience that I have had with like pure manifestation, I'm like, wow, like this, I have to remember. And I have to think about this a lot, because I think one of the things that we do is, if something bad happens, I know I do. If something bad happens, I'm like, well, that's because this led to this and this led to this. And I'm continually thinking about those things. And then what ends up happening is that, like, another experience just like very similarly happens. So it's like, I feel like that's how patterns keep taking place. You know what I mean? And to change that, that's where we have to be, I guess, more of a conscious contributor to the process.
Yes, because Jennifer, very simply, if you're walking down the street and you're thinking, I don't know, whatever happened, you watch the news too much or whatever, and you say, oh my God, people are so rude. I promise you, you will bump into rude people.
Right.
For attracting it. If you're driving and somebody cuts you off and you say, oh my God, people can't drive, blah, blah, blah. I promise you, some other guy will come and do something else.
Right.
Because you are just attracting to you whatever is percolating within your mind. That's why we affirm. So now when somebody cuts me off driving, I say, buddy, take it easy. Don't kill yourself and don't kill anybody else.
Right.
Good luck to you. I used to be, furious and, oh my God, people can't drive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what happened? I bumped into more people who were, careless drivers or whatever. And if you say people are rude, you're going to bump into rude people. Wayne Dyer tells a story of this couple moving to a town, and they go to the general store and they say, what are the people like in this town? We're moving here. And the guy says, well, what are the people like in the town you live in now? Oh, they're rude, they're nosy, they're busybodies, they're not friendly. He says, well, you're going to find that here. And then if you want to continue the story, another couple goes to the store and asks the same question. What are the people like here? And he says, well, what are the people like in your town? Oh, they're beautiful, they're friendly, they're kind, they're caring and helpful. And he says, well, that's what you're going to find here. You are going to attract whatever energy you're sending out. So that's why we affirm, I'm beautiful. I love my fellow man. I am abundant. Whatever this, Louise Hay has 1 million affirmations. You can go to her homepage, whatever you want to do. We affirm. We are feeling gratitude. When we're anxious, because when you're anxious, you're going to attract stuff that's going to make you more anxious. We breathe. Because when you breathe slowly and deeply, you're telling the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, turn the alarm off. It's not code red anymore.
Right.
Everything's calm. Everything's copacetic. All this stuff had a purpose. When we were cavemen back then, and a Bengal tiger came along, you needed to be anxious and stressed and whatever, because it gave you strength, it gave you speed, it gave you power, it gave you. But after half an hour or whatever, if you survived, then your body goes back to homeostasis. But we have people whose bodies do not go back to homeostasis. It's a constant state of stress and anxiety.
Right.
And what do we want to do? We want to breathe. We want to affirm. We want to feel grateful. If you have a specific thing you want to manifest, keep it general anyway, like a car or whatever, or a relationship, then do your visualizing. Another thing we do, because we believe that we're here for more than just manifesting, is to do some sort of service somewhere, whatever it may be. A student goes to a Buddhist monk and says, I'm very discouraged. And the guru or the monk says, encourage others. Very discouraged. What's the solution? Encourage others. Because when you help someone else, you're lifted already.
Right.
Not only are they lifted, but you are lifted. It's absolutely beautiful. I get these videos on Facebook. It's beautiful. And one day, this little girl sitting at lunch with her father in a diner, and there's a homeless man outside. And the little girl said, it's called The Humankind. It's lovely. And the little girl says, Daddy, can I? And the father says, yeah, go ahead. She takes her lunch and brings it out to the homeless man.
Aww.
Oh, it's beautiful. Not only is she lifted, not only is the homeless man lifted, the father is probably bursting. And everybody who saw the video, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people saw the video, they are uplifted by this.
Sure.
So it's not only us on this planet, gimme, 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 let me manifest, let me manifest, let me manifest. It's, a collective thing.
Well, it's nice to hear that, because a lot of the times I feel like the idea of manifestation is it's almost like you could psych yourself out about it. Like, oh, I'm going to try to do this. And then, you're watching for the results and, I'm failing at it. And then you could throw yourself back into the rut. But it's true. If you provide a service, that's an action that you can take. That's probably a little easier for some people,
to get out of yourself.
Yeah.
And to not focus on results. Another thing we do, and that's very good you said that, Jennifer. When you want to manifest, we don't focus on the results. We focus on the journey. We focus on the process. And helping others as a way to just take your mind off of, oh, where's that car that I wanted? Where's that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Jennifer, a perfect example of this, because we want to be accepting. We want to be allowing. We don't want to, the Buddhists say, don't grab on, because you're squeezing the energy. You can't let it flow. You want it to flow. Perfect example is a woman who wants to have a child and can't get pregnant. What happens many, many times? They adopt.
Yeah.
They're so giving and loving. They're in the moment. They're giving their heart and soul to this adopted child. Next thing you know, they get pregnant.
Right.
This is how it happens. You don't want to choke off the energy. Oh, I need a relationship, but I love myself. I feel good about myself. I'm giving to the rest of the world. I am grateful. I'm breathing. I'm going to visualize and keep it general. And I'm going to feel good about my visualization. Don't just put the board up. Look at it and feel it. Wow, it's going to be beautiful. It's beautiful already. We always say we're in the present moment. It's beautiful already. I can feel love already. But obviously, like we said earlier, I hate to say but if you want to manifest, love yourself first.
Right.
We always start. We want to be informed. Beautiful thing. And we always say happiness is an inside job anyway. Right. So once we get to a point where I am so happy with me. Now, if you can't say I love me yet, say I accept me. And then work your way up to I like me. And, whatever. And work your way up to I love me. Because Louise Hay has a movie. And in the movie, she's teaching people to go to the mirror and say, I love you. I love myself. And one girl said I couldn't say it. I was choking on the words. I started with, okay, you're okay. And then I worked my way up to, you're nice. And then I feel comfortable with me. And then she worked her way up to finally where she said, I love me. And once you say, I love me, every door opens. You're not limiting yourself. If you live it with limit and lack and limit, they say, then you're going to get lack and limit. You're not going to have enough money. You're not going to have enough friends. You're not going to have enough abundance of any way, shape, or form. Health is a big thing. In our group, we talked a lot about taking care of yourself. Dr. Daniel Amen does a lot on brain health and gut health. Fantastic. Because there's a very powerful quote. The healthy person has thousands of dreams and thousands of plans, but the unhealthy person has one.
To get healthy.
Right. Nothing else. Who wants a car if you don't feel well? See what I mean? Who wants anything if you don't feel well? So part of it is our own co-creating and our own action. So you want to take care of your health, because when you are healthy, you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
The energy is up there. And then you feel good about yourself and you do your mirror work or your partner work saying, I love myself. This universe is just waiting to pour stuff out to you. Just waiting. Esther Hicks says, and it's very simple, but it takes work. 3 steps to manifestation. Ask, be very clear with what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I want a beautiful relationship. Then keep it general. It doesn't have to be one specific guy, whatever. You can make a list though.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a relationship workshop, and the guy said, make a list of what you want. I want somebody with a sense of humor. I want somebody who has a job. I want somebody who takes care of his health,
Right.
exercise. I want somebody, whatever. I want somebody, it doesn't have to be blonde, blue-eyed or whatever, but I want somebody who has a sense of humor. I want somebody who's honest. I want somebody I could talk to. Make a list and put that on your visioning board.
Right.
And I promise you, that person is just waiting in the wings. They're just waiting for you to feel good about yourself, for you to be clear with what you want. So the first step that Esther Hicks says is ask, what do you want? Be clear. Second step, believe.
Mm.
And you might say, well, I have trouble with that. Make a list of everything that you have accomplished in your life. Makes you feel good about you and this universe. Make a list of everything that has happened in your life that it's sort of goes beyond luck. We don't believe in luck. We believe it's all a response to our energy. So you might say, wow, I had that disease when I was young and I overcame it. It's totally gone or whatever. And, I had that terrible relationship and the guy wasn't very nice to me. I remember, and I overcame that and I was brave enough to get out of it. And I walked into the boss one day and I demanded a raise. And wow, all the stuff that you have done and all the stuff that this universe has done that's beyond, wow, that was lucky. I'd say, how did that happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put that all together and say, this universe is really amazing. So if we can get to a point of believing in ourselves and in the goodness of this universe, there's nothing stopping you. There's nothing stopping you. And then after that, she says, receive. But you got to want to receive. There are people who, they haven't learned to receive.
Right.
You give them a compliment, they're uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You give them a gift, oh, no, it's too much money. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. You deserve, whatever it may be.
Right.
And you might say, well, it's pretty shallow to want to manifest a car. No, it's not. A car is fine. It's a beautiful thing.
Right.
It's pretty shallow to want to manifest money. No, it's not. Money is energy.
Yeah.
Money is a wonderful energy. I can feed some child in Africa and never go to Africa. I have the wherewithal. Money is energy. And, Esther Hicks says, for the universe, there's no difference between a button and a castle. What do you want? I don't want to ask too much of God. There's nothing small about this universe. There's nothing small. You want a button? Here's a button. You want a car? Here's a car. You want a relationship? Here's a relationship. It's an amazing world, honey. It's an amazing world. But we just, what we say is we want to get ourselves aligned.
Yeah.
We want to get ourselves centered.
Mm-hmm.
We want to heal any separation between us and the universe, source, spirit, God. And we want to heal, it's hard for a lot of people, we want to heal any separation between us and our fellow man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a hard one because our fellow man is on a path that we might not agree with.
Right.
So basically you want to love yourself and love this universe. And then when it comes down to that, when you get to that point, everybody else in this universe, we try to send love to, even if you just say namaste or God bless them, or I hope they become, like Putin, I hope this guy becomes aware of what he's doing and these people that he's hurting. And when he does become aware, maybe this will end.
Right.
So once we get to those points, you can manifest whatever you want because now you're manifesting consciously.
Right.
It's not a fear-based thing that, you're manifesting and everything happens. Like they had this actress was on TV, one of those shows. I won't say her name and she's like making movies. She's all over the place. She's phenomenal, getting awards and fantastic. And the interviewer said, "Boy, you must feel so good about life and everything." She said, "I don't." And the interviewer said, "What?" And the actress said, "I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop." Well, that energy will get you nowhere. That energy will get you nowhere.
That's interesting.
It's interesting.
Because it happens a lot. I think that a lot of us, that's how we respond to our lives.
Yes.
It's like, okay, well, and I know I get as much, I have a platform where I talk about this stuff all the time, but it's like, it's so easy for me to get into that funk where it's like, okay, I see so things are good, but then something bad happens. And I'm like, I look at the bad. You know what I mean? And then I feed it. And so everything that you're saying, it's always a reminder for me because it's like, oh, okay, I see where I went wrong there. Or I remember, I shifted my way of thinking in that situation. So it's really a practice, isn't it? It's every day, just making sure that you give us some time to this idea. And it is, it's all linked. So it's not like, oh, I'm working on manifestation today. You know what I mean? It's really about just that overall, cleansing and keeping that self-care going and having that faith every day that something good may come in if you, trust it. It's trusting the universe is very hard when you've had a lot of past disappointments. So, but again, this idea that, it doesn't have to repeat itself. All that same energy,
No. People say bad things happen in 3. Of course they happen in 3, more than 3, because once one bad thing happens, something else is going to happen. And, of course, something else is going to happen. And, here we go. Now I'm going to, now, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it spirals down, it spirals down, it spirals down. And if we take our focus off of like what went wrong, even though it didn't go wrong, you learned from it anyway.
Right.
Think about, wow, I learned from this. Like people break up, say, I got to start all over again. No, you're not starting all over again. You're starting from a place where you're wiser. You have more self-knowledge. You have more self-understanding. You know what you don't want. You know what you do want. Now you're starting not over again, but you're starting again or, whatever, on a new path with a new relationship. And it's 1,000 times better because you know who you are now.
Yeah.
You know where you're coming from. And it makes it so much easier because we get into habits, Jennifer, and it's true. And one habit, like all of us have, especially those who have had some hardship in life, one habit is that we focus on what is not working.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on what is working. And I always tell a story. I went to spin class years ago in the gym, and a young woman ran the spin class on Saturday mornings. But her daughter was sick or somebody was sick in her family, and she couldn't do it, and she got a substitute. The substitute happened to be a guy who was a good friend of mine. And he comes into the class, and everybody's saying, "Hey, how you doing?" He says, "Oh, sorry, so-and-so, her daughter's sick than him." And people are coming into the class, smiling and happy. And one girl walks in the door, sees that her friend is not there, and leaves. Well, everybody comes in. There was 28 bikes, and everybody had a great thing. He's playing Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. It was great. It was a wonderful, wonderful spin class. Everybody had a great time. And I walked into the locker room with him. And as we're walking into the locker room, all he could talk about was the girl who left.
Oh, right.
And I kept saying, wow, that was a great class. Everybody had a great time. Ooh, the music was great. Ooh, did you see everybody smiling and laughing? all he could talk about was the girl who left. And it's part of our upbringing. It's part of our training that we focus on stuff that, we want to focus on what's working. That's why we use gratitude. That's why we affirm. That's why we visualize. That's why we help other people, because that works for us.
Right.
I met my wife in a soup kitchen, and I never expected it. And that's how the universe works. I was open. That's another great thing. The Buddhists say, be open to everything, attached to nothing. Don't want to be attached, because as we did before, when you're attached, you're squeezing the energy out. There's no flow. Nothing can flow.
Right.
You're only focused on the result. And you're not saying, hey, I'm enjoying this process. I'm enjoying becoming. I'm enjoying learning. I'm learning more about me. Hey, I broke this habit. I broke that habit. And it flows. It's beautiful. Once you get into a flow experience, the universe is just sending whatever it can your way. It's beautiful. As an artist, flow experience.
Yes, very much. And it's true. It's so true. I mean, like all the stuff that you're saying, I'm just, taking it in and thinking about areas that, I could apply this to, because, you talk about like bad habits. It's so true. We see it, how bad habits, like how it affects our physical health. That's like the easiest way to see how the manifestation of bad habits work,
Right.
And if we can, but somehow with our mental and emotional states, it's harder for us to realize that much of how we approach things with our attitude, our belief systems, it's kind of reinforcing, states that we're already in. So that kind of habit, if we can start reinforcing positive things and things that are, abundance serving, then we have a lot of ability to steer our lives in the way that we want to go.
Yeah, breaking habits is a very important thing to do. And it's a conscious thing. You don't want to just be doing things subconsciously, like tying shoes or whatever. You want to make it conscious. So like we always talk about with food, a lot of people in the class, they talk about health. They talk about trying to have a more fit and more healthy body. We don't talk about going on diets, because that's coming from a place of a negative energy. So we want to have a more healthy, more flexible, more trim body or whatever. So what do? We change the way we eat, and we go from being a subconscious eater, where we just stuff food in our mouth and don't even taste it, and we try to be more of a conscious eater. So we want to shift that habit. It's a good point, Jennifer, you made. So what do? We look at the color. We look at the texture. We chew very slowly and enjoy each bite, and we thank the farmer, we thank the truck driver, and so it becomes not something that we just stuff into our mouth, but it becomes something of value, something beautiful. And what happens is you eat less, you enjoy it more, and your body will respond. And add to that, going to the mirror and saying, I love myself. I love my body. There's this girl, I forgot her name. She's like a plus model. Lauren something, whatever. And she wakes up, she goes to the mirror, she takes all her clothes off. She says, I love this body. I love my body. And, in our modern standards, she would not be considered. She said, look at how my thighs rub up against each other. They love each other. They just love to be close together. She says this constantly. She's been doing this for years. And guess what? She was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. How's that for manifestation?
Yeah, truly.
She manifested the cover of Sports Illustrated. How? By loving her body. Yeah, but you're not you don't have a model's body. Yeah. She didn't focus on that. She focused on loving her body. I love my body. And I'm telling you, if I walk down the beach in Rio de Janeiro There's 50,000 guys that look better than me in a bathing suit. That's fine. That's perfectly fine because I love my body and I don't care. And if I feel a little chubbier, I just say, I love this body. I want this body to be healthy. I want this body to be agile and fit and whatever. And I just eat accordingly. So it's not like, oh, I hate the way I look or I hate. Yeah, you don't want to come from any negative. You don't want to come from any, we say resistance. Because once you resist, it's going to persist.
Right.
If you resist the extra weight, it's going to persist. I always tell the story that in our building, there are 22 apartments and nobody smokes in the building except for the people underneath me. And I say me because I've been here for 20 years, but underneath us. I don't like the smell of smoke. And I'm resistant. So now I'm letting it go, thank God. But there are 21 other people in the building. The only ones who smoke are the ones underneath me. And that's been that way for 20 years. Every person underneath me has been a smoker.
Oh, how funny.
And nobody else smokes.
And you smell it?
I smell it because it comes through the, comes up through the radiator pipe.
Oh, interesting.
In the closets. What you resist persists. And another thing I resist, I don't like, not that I don't like, but I can't figure out how people can sit in their car and let the car idle for 20 minutes or whatever, and it's a beautiful day and I'm in the park and I'm sitting and reading and there's 5 cars running. I can't figure it out. Well, guess what? Every time I go somewhere, somebody pulls up right next to me and leaves the car idling because I'm attracting it.
Right.
Because I'm resisting it. So like you say, you got to break some of these habits. You got to break some of these chains because what you resist persists.
Yeah, truly.
Whether it's weight or whether it's loneliness or whether it's lack of abundance or whether it's illness, whatever it may be. So once we let go and we break that pattern and we turn to appreciation and gratitude, another thing that if you want to manifest and if you want to grow, you're going to have to be accepting and grateful and enthused about change. Because if you're afraid of change, then nothing can happen except eventually down the road, the universe is going to shake you up somewhere and somehow because you're living in your little cocoon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it was Carlos Castaneda or one of those people, I forgot where, but he said, if you think change is difficult, try routine. That's a killer.
I love that.
Isn't it great? Because some of us are afraid to change. We're afraid to create, and we are co-creators. We're co-creators. So let's get out there and create. Let's get out there and manifest.
Absolutely.
Let's grow.
I mean, the thing with change is interesting too, because when you do grow, you are changing your whole sphere of energy. So, it's a change that can bring in obviously more change. So, it's where you can make the most difference, just like internally.
Yes.
If you can just kind of like gather that hold on yourself and open yourself up to something new, something to come in to disrupt, so many things could be possible that you haven't really, trusted could happen.
Yeah. Jennifer, the famous quote is, nothing magical happens in the comfort zone. Nothing magical happens in the comfort zone. We have to be willing to accept change. And Leo Buscaglia says, take a risk. So you got to have to take some sort of risk. What does that mean? Get a resume out there. Go on some interviews. Talk to your boss about a raise. Join a gym. Join a Match.com or whatever you want to join. You know what I mean?
Right.
Go to some workshops. Whatever it may be. Go to a meetup group. Join, do Meals on Wheels or do a soup kitchen. We are the co-creators. And the famous quote is that God will do half the work, the second half. So it's up to us to Be clear. What do I want? Visualize, affirm, get it out there. Okay, I want a relationship. All right. Join a church, join a meetup group, go to match.com, call your friends and say, hey, I'm ready to meet somebody. Who do you know? Whatever. I don't know. There's 1,000 ways, I guess, to do it. But that first step is always the hardest for many of us,
Oh, definitely. Well, because you're working against like, again, the idea of habitual. We're creatures of habit. So it's like, I have gone through so much with, negative thinking because I've been in a situation that's been, I guess a lot of us psychiatric survivors are disenfranchised, we're disempowered. As far as, one of the things that we, as a group, as a collective, my group of people, we need to do is let go of the voices. But the voices were put there by an institution, right? Like, oh, you're not capable, or, you're limited. So that kind of narrative, it's not just within this institution, it's within a lot of institutional situations, right? Systemic institutional situations where a narrative is repeated and repeated. And if you fall into that group, like, oh, well, I'm not good enough, or, so we are fighting on a daily basis sometimes these thoughts about ourselves, right?
Yes.
Because they're put there either by our parents or by some kind of institution or whatever. So it's really like a daily challenge, but I promise it's very true. I mean, and having experienced some level of this, that once you make it your, mission, once you put like true intentionality behind it, things can definitely shift in your life. And all of those thoughts start falling away. And you know what? A lot of the times when we disable those disabling thoughts, radical change happens.
Yes.
But you know what? Maybe that's what needs to happen. And something, that can kind of tear down those thoughts and our narratives that are holding us back. If you could, bring that in, then all of a sudden, totally new things. So I guess what I'm trying to say for those people who feel disempowered or they're not sure that these things are there for not just Mo, Dick, and Larry over here, oh, this works for them, but I don't think it's going to work for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to believe that, but that's erroneous because we're all part of the universe and we're all we're just working parts. So it's what's consistent for that person is also, true for you as well.
Right. So Jennifer, for a person like you who went through what you went through, there's a reason for that.
Right.
So now you're a voice. Now people can say, Jen, can I talk to you about this? You have knowledge, you have expertise, you have wisdom, you have, self-knowledge that you can now be compassionate.
Right.
Honey, there's no compassion without suffering. So you have gone through this because now you are much more compassionate to others who are going through the same thing.
Right.
And there's a purpose for everything like this. We're getting a little bit off the point. But two things I want to say, Jen. When people tell you, no, you can't do that. We have two expressions. Says who, because says who.
Right.
Okay, they went to medical school, but they don't know what I'm going through.
Right.
I am the best person who knows what I'm going through, and I know what I need.
Right.
And I'm learning every day more and more and more what I need. So we always say says who, and we always say until now.
I love that.
We love that. So we never make a blanket statement like, oh, I'm not good at until now.
Right.
Oh, I've never been good until now.
I just want to tell you, I noticed it's 11:11.
Oh my God, Jennifer, I don't believe it.
It's the first time I looked at the clock.
Jennifer, oh, new things are coming your way, Jennifer.
It's amazing.
New opportunities.
I mean, we were just, before we started taping this, Mr. D and I were just talking about those repeating numbers, how important they are. They give us signs, and signs are everywhere, aren't they?
Everywhere, honey. Signs are everywhere. I years ago, I had a double hernia operation. I don't know if you put this on the podcast. Double hernia operation. And I healed very slowly. Because I let it go for years and years, and it was February, there was a blizzard. I couldn't go out. I was walking up and down in the apartment, and the weather got a little warmer. I went outside, to bring the garbage, whatever. And there's a man in the backyard with about 50 balloons saying, congratulations. I can't even figure out what. So I went, I did all my recyclable garbage, and the man was gone. And I saw him like walking down the field. And to me, the universe sent me a sign that, congratulations, you're fine, you're healing, your body is healing.
Wow.
This was before I really got into like affirming and visualizing. And
Yeah.
now it's more a part of my daily routine. And Jennifer, when you talk about being a co-creator, a very, very nice thing to do for everybody out there every day. You wake up every morning and say, this is going to be a wonderful day.
Set the tone.
Set the tone. And then you go to bed and you say, what are some good things that happened today? And then you could always add, what are some things that I might do better tomorrow? Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And people do this every day. I don't know if it's Tony Robbins or Wayne Dyer or whoever, Dr. Daniel Amen. Yeah, he does it. Every morning, wake up, it's going to be a beautiful day. And then in the evening, that was a good day. And just think about what went right, whatever it was. The coffee was good, or the toast was, whatever. And then you build from there. You say, I'm going to have a good night's sleep, because it's our energy that co-creates. So if you want to manifest your energy, when you're aligned, you're centered, everything flows. We say to be enlightened, which is beautiful. Enlightened means I absolutely am sure that I am one with this universe. There's no separation.
That's it.
That's it. It's beautiful. Very beautiful. This story, Jennifer, I don't know if you heard this story, but it's beautiful. That this enlightened woman is walking down the road, and she's by a stream, and she finds a beautiful stone. She puts the stone in her bag, and she keeps walking. And a traveler comes by. And the traveler says, I'm so hungry. Do you have any food? And she said, yes. She opens her bag, and she's going to get him some food, but the traveler sees the stone. And the traveler says, can I have that stone? And the woman says, yes. She gives him the stone. And the traveler is thrilled, because this is a valuable stone. And 10 minutes later, the traveler comes back. And he says, I don't want the stone. I want what's within you, that you could give away such a stone.
Right.
So the key to anything, Jennifer, to any joy, to any manifestation, is joy, being centered, enlightenment. So I don't care what anybody wants to manifest. If it brings them joy, great. But if you could find joy along the journey,
right,
now you got it made. Now you got it made. Because that's the key to anything. I don't care how many cars people have, or houses, or boats, whatever. Joy is the one and only measure of anything.
Of anything, that's right.
Anything. It's the only measure. I got 5 boats and houses. I understand, but do you have joy? It's the only thing. It's amazing.
Well, Mr. D, you're always so inspiring, and to go over these principles of manifestation, I love to do, because to me right now, like, I'm going to have this fruitful weekend and do some of these practices and just get into the mode, because my schedule is going to be changing, where I'm going to be a lot busier and on the go. And if I could just take a few minutes every day and just, consciously have a thought, you know what I mean, and direct it, and I could have a lot of influence as to, how this new change in my life goes. So I appreciate it so much, Mr. D, for you to come out again and talk to us about this information. And please give everyone your information if they'd like to get on this weekly class that you're doing. How can people find you?
We're going to Zoom Wednesday at 8:00. I'll give you the passcode, I guess. It's 513-500-5298. And the password is EAGLE.
Okay. That's the Zoom room code.
Yeah, it's the Zoom room. We're going to do it at 8:00 on Wednesday. Lovely group. We have a lovely group.
And how can people follow you on social media?
Well, I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
I have a group. It's called Reduce Stress and Increase Joy, something like that. It's cute. And I put little pictures and stuff on,
Very good.
And of course, the podcasts.
Everyone check out the 2 other podcasts. Now this is number 3. Mr. D is becoming a regular guest. I love it.
It's been fun, Jennifer. It's been fun, honey.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. D. You're always a blast. And it's always such a pleasure to hear your words of wisdom. Truly. It's so enlightening. I've been so thankful to know you over the years and to have been influenced by your spirit and knowledge. Thank you.
Jennifer, could I just say one more thing?
Yes, absolutely.
In manifestation, you don't want to be against anything. You want to be pro. So they asked Mother Teresa years ago, would she join an anti-war march? And she said no. And they were shocked. And she said, if you have a march pro-peace,
right,
then I'll join. So you don't want to be against. You want to be pro. I am for.
Right.
Whatever it may be,
Right.
And go with the flow and have fun out there, everybody. Enjoy the process.
I love it, Mr. D. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Have a good day, honey.
Thanks for listening to Not As Crazy As You Think, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And remember, mental health is attainable for anyone, especially those labeled with mental illness. Until next time, peace out.